Hello everybody, here we are today talking about the New York Islanders, a team that is helping the Eastern Conference stay pretty chaotic in terms of playoff picture. But before we get started talking about them, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or hockey, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. So the Islanders have been a team that's been in the playoffs quite a bit recently with 5 playoff appearances in 6 years. But over the past 3 years, they really haven't done a whole lot. Didn't make the playoffs and then bounced in the first round in consecutive seasons. And going into this season, I was one of many people that said the Islanders probably weren't going to go out there and make the playoffs. In fact, not too long ago, about a month and a half ago, I also did kind of a video talking about why I felt like it was probably a done deal for the Islanders for their season and how I didn't see them making it back there was going to be kind of a reality. But here we are. They've got some life as of late. And now we get to talk about what exactly is going on for those Long Island boys, seeing if this could actually manifest into a playoff appearance after I've already said twice that they aren't going to get there. So what exactly has been going on for the Islanders to kind of get things back into perspective of actually getting to the playoffs? Well, 2025 has been better than the 24 part of their 24-25 campaign. They kicked off the 25 run with a 2-1 loss to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Since then, they've gone 11-3-0, and that is really just going to be a big boost for any team trying to get back into the playoff spot or positioning. And for the Islanders, this is exactly what they needed, because even if they were about average, I think, again, the talks would be how they weren't really in that conversation. However, no, they have 57 points, and they are 3 points back at that final wildcard spot, really allowing for them to say we are right there, because 3 points is not that big of a deal, especially when you realize that the Islanders have 29 games left for the season. Just try to do the best that you can with those games, which is still a good chunk of games left for the year, and see what can happen. And I know that their playoff odds are pretty low in terms of, actually getting in. It's not about 50%, it's a little over 36% according to MoneyPuck.com. But I think one thing that we've seen from a lot of these Eastern Conference teams that are fringe is that when they're at their best, they definitely could be in the wild card spot. But I think at the same time, too, if they're not at their best, I think a lot of these teams really aren't deserving of being into the playoffs. And I know that kind of sounds cliche, but it's not just about, oh, when we're at our worst. I think it's really for a lot of these teams when they're not at their best, they aren't able to say that they'd probably get there. For the Islanders, if they can just have more consistency than a lot of these teams, a lot of younger teams also haven't done it so far, then they would, probably in all likelihood actually sneak in there over teams like Columbus, Ottawa, and Detroit potentially. So will the Islanders be able to use this to get enough momentum to get back into the playoffs? I don't know, but I think there are a few reasons why you could say maybe they could. They have been able to pick up 11 wins out of 14 games with only 4 power play goals. That kind of seems odd. Again, thinking, well, they should be better on the man advantage, and it's odd that they're actually able to do better and get those wins. But they've still got 2 shutouts over these 14 games. They've got a good amount of games where they've held teams under 2 goals or less, and they've been able to be one of the better sides in terms of goals for percentage at full strength. Always a good thing in that regard. So even if the power play isn't clicking a lot, they've still been able to get the crucial points, which is, again, what we'll harp about over and over and over in this channel. It just matters if you get a win. I mean, I know we can talk about analytics and underlying numbers, and I will stress that quite a bit about why teams maybe will be better than some other teams in terms of quality chances and whatnot. But yeah, the Islanders are getting those wins. They're winning at 5-on-5, and especially crucial, they are doing much better on the PK. They had the worst PK percentage in the league last year. They are second worst on the penalty kill this season, but over the past 14 games, they have allowed 2 goals with guys in the box. That is big. Again, your goal differential is positive on special teams for a 14-game stretch. For the Islanders, that's not necessarily something that they could say for the entirety of the year where they'd feel really confident over a long period of time that that would actually work out, considering, again, they've had their challenges. But in this case, again, cleaning up especially the PK is crucial. It would be weird to imagine a team nearly being worse than the league on the PK making into the playoffs, but it doesn't really matter. And again, this is a team that is winning, and they aren't a superstar roster, but they still are having guys that are having good runs. Bo Horvat has 9 goals over his past 14 games. And then you have somebody like Tony DeAngelo, that was a low-risk, potential high-ish, middle-ish reward pickup in this regard, as he was signed to a 1-year deal for a league minimum. I think this is something that could be huge for them in terms of defensive pairings and depth and whatnot for the playoffs, which is always big, especially when you're worried about injuries or just playing against other teams that have higher quality, talent, trying to match up with them as much as you can. And the early results in the traditional sense have looked pretty good. 4 points in 6 games, a good plus-minus, so I know a lot of people are probably excited in that way. And for Tony, again, you might get more bang out of your buck for him compared to somebody if you would have tried to go out there and really maybe kind of give away a little bit of your future in that regard. This is something that Lou did, and it might actually look pretty good. And then you have Ilya Sorokin, who is having really good numbers, and then Marcus Hogberg, and he has got a like 1.45 goals against average for the 4 games that he's played over this run. Really good, and you'd like to see kind of a dynamic duo there, even though, again, Sorokin is going to be the expected starter in this course. But, again, players that are stepping up that you really expected to. Some of these guys like D'Angelo that could actually really help on a cheap deal. And then some faces maybe you didn't expect that were already playing for the team that could really contribute for this way as they are, getting hot at a really good and fortunate time, are all reasons why you could say, well, I do feel like I'm leaning more towards the Islanders actually going out there and being a playoff team when you were probably more in the camp that I was in where I didn't expect them to make it. And circling back to the whole D'Angelo pickup, I think this is actually significant. This is not a needle mover in getting them to win the Stanley Cup. This is not that big of a deal. It is not a Mikko Rantanen-esque trade that really just propelled the Canes to talks about being one of the favorites. However, it's more about getting their spot in the playoffs and getting a message sent across, which I think Lou is doing, that he still wants to win, even though this deal might go a little bit under the radar for, maybe more casual fans, and that's totally okay because Tony wasn't even playing. But this is where I think that for the Islanders, it's not even necessarily about winning in the playoffs anymore. It's more about just getting there. They've got the oldest team by the average age in the league, and they are a side they would like to say, well, considering all the contracts that we've given in recent years and whatnot, and even very, very recently, we would still say that the product out on the ice is good enough to be better than half the teams in the league. And we do have a chance to maybe do something every once in a while, even though I think we all know that it's going to be a very, very hard battle for them. Uphill, to be honest, in this regard. But I think that, again, for somebody like Lou, he doesn't want to admit defeat, and probably at this stage in his GMing career would really like to go out in a way where the team is not, a bottom feeder or anything in that regard. So I think that they could go out and possibly be even more aggressive come deadline time. So I think the Islanders are going to go out there and make the playoffs. I am still going to say no for a 3rd time this year. They have the 3rd hardest remaining strength of schedule for the season. This is a team that, again, you do worry about special teams a little bit, and you just worry, I think, in general, if they've got enough to get over that hump. And again, take on some of these other teams that might not have done it before, but certainly look like they are more motivated, and in all honesty, probably more talented in a lot of ways, and just have more skill overall. I think for the Islanders, they're in a spot where they've got those first-round picks that are kind of juicy for Lou, I'm sure, to trade away, because he's like, oh, I won't be here probably for another 5 years or anything like that. So if he really wanted to get aggressive at the deadline, they could move things around. They are in a weird spot, I think, with the cap a little bit, but with those picks there and then the ability to kind of shift things around how he wants to see fit, they could be one of those teams that, again, they find a way to get it done. Sorokin has a good series, somebody else steps up, and they just are able to at least win a round. That is a possibility. But overall, for me, I think I'm picking the young kids, the guys that are a little bit more unproven, or the teams that are unproven in this regard, over a team like the Islanders, especially. Teams like the Islanders, the Lightning, the Bruins are facing this challenge where they still want to be competitive, but in a lot of ways, the league could be getting past them in certain regards in terms of the now. We'll see how things go in the short to midterm future. But what do you think for the Islanders, winners of 11 out of their past 14? With 29 games left, do you think they'll be able to gain the ground they need to with a limited amount of time? Let me know down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night. And you go love hockey, all right. Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.